Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Greater Manchester Stories. This episode story is a very sad case. I was posting something on social media the other day about the grooming gangs in Rochdale and the abuse girls have suffered there. And Teresa Smith contacted me just to say, but Nick, don't forget boys have also abused. Boys have also been groomed and the victims of this crime, which is absolutely true because I've actually stopped one boy being groomed and being abused. But again, you compare that to the 15 girls I've stopped. The boys just seem to be not talked about, not looked at, and they're more undercover. So I replied to Teresa saying, well, I am aware. Would you like to come on my podcast and let's talk about it because other people need to know this. This isn't just a girl problem. It affects boys as well. So first of all, Teresa, thank you for coming on my podcast.
Yeah, no problem, Nick.
First of all, can you just tell us, well, basically tell us your story.
Right. In 2007, my son went into care by choice. His friend had gone in, so he thought it was good that he didn't have to follow any rules, and he went in. So he was placed in a number of foster placements, which broke down, and then he was placed in a children's home in Oldham, and the he changed overnight. I heard rumours that he was being groomed, and I asked him. I always knew my son was gay, and I asked him about the abuse, which he denied. But I took to following him and seeing where he was going, etc., because I had no control over him because he was in care. And I found out he was going to a certain place where he was getting groomed of Asian males.
So just like the girls in Rochdale, there's actually Asians grooming young boys as well.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
So after you found what was happening, what happened then?
Then my son, I was called to Oldham Police Station, and my son was given a restriction order stopping him from going in the areas where I knew that he was being groomed. To which I told the senior officer who was giving him the order that, in fact, he was getting groomed. And I was told, no, he's not. It doesn't happen to boys. He's got no gifts. He's got no money. And I told him at that point, no, he's being paid with alcohol. I gave the name of the address of the person who was grooming him, just to be fobbed off and just told, no, it's not happening.
And your son's 14 at this time?
He's about 11 at this time, 11, 12.
He's 11 at this time.
Yeah.
So an 11-year-old boy who you've told the police is being groomed, their response was, we're going to give him a restriction order about where he can go. That's like treating him as the criminal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when I brought it all to light. But I was just told, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. And if the police don't believe you, who do you go to?
Absolutely. I mean, the police are supposed to be there to protect everybody and to offer us a service. So what happened after that?
Well, then I lost a lot of contact with my son. He stopped coming round to my property and wouldn't come out shopping with me, etc. And I heard more rumours. I wanted to approach the person, but my son told me, no, it's too dangerous for you to approach the man who was the ringleader of it all.
What did your son mean by it's too dangerous?
He seemed very scared. And I spoke with his social worker, who yet again said, no, it's not happening. He's just being rebellious.
Did your son say it was just one man, or was there a group of men?
There was a group of men. There was a group of men doing this to him. He would get to the situations where he would sit and talk to me about it, but he was a bit shy about his sexuality, given his age, and the children at the children's home teased him about it. It was written on the walls in the children's home that he was gay.
Being young and gay is, especially around other boys, is still extremely difficult because they will take the mickey, they will use it as a bullying tactic. It's a hard thing to come to terms with, especially at such a young age, and especially if you're being convinced by older men. First of all, convinced that you're gay, and then second, being convinced that what they're doing to you is normal and acceptable.
Yeah, well, he was under the impression that this man was actually his boyfriend, but this man was in his 40s at this time. What the main ringleader was in his 40s at the time.
Everything you're saying there is just a carbon copy of what the girls from Rochdale said. The abuser's my boyfriend. I only do these things to please him because he's my boyfriend and he loves me. There's always alcohol and drugs involved. They then isolate the child from their parents.
He was isolated from us, and he just became a shadow of himself. He just didn't care about his appearance or anything. He was just, I found him drunk on many occasions. He came to me on one occasion when he'd been abused and asked me to clean him up and begged me not to go to the police, which I know now I should have done, but I didn't because he was scared.
What happened after that? How many years did this go on?
It went on about 2 years. And then I said, I'm going to go down to the place. It was a shop. And I said I was going to go down and confront the man. And he said, no, you don't know what you're messing with. Please don't, Mum. Please don't go down. You'll cause more trouble. So then he went out of his way to get moved out of Oldham to Manchester, where the grooming then stopped. And then when he was 16, he came back to Oldham to be housed by the local council, but he could never settle anywhere.
I'm not surprised, especially what's happened to him, especially going back to Oldham, not knowing if you're going to turn a corner, go in the shop and bump into your abusers and then risk it all starting all over again.
He was scared of staying in Oldham. He abandoned the flat and moved out. And we lost touch for a number of years. He'd just turn up every now and again, but he was very disruptive to my life and very disruptive to his own. Ended up with serious mental health problems.
Of course, I mean, how else would you end up when those sort of things have happened to you? You're bound to have mental health issues. You're bound to be turning to alcohol and drugs just to dampen the pain.
Yeah, he did end up drinking quite heavily. I know on occasions he did do drugs, but he wasn't addicted to drugs, just the alcohol. Every now and again he'd turn up, but he'd never stay in Oldham. I did have conversations with him when he, as an adult, and he told me what had happened to him as a child, which I said go to the police, and he was too scared. And unbeknownst to me, in 2015, he went to the police and reported one man for the abuse after many suicide attempts that he'd done. Did his video interviews, etc. And he told the officer who was dealing with the case, I want to do some more interviews because I want to tell you about the others. Unfortunately, while he's waiting, the officer was on holiday and she said, I will do the videos with you when I get back off holiday. unfortunately, he died of a cardiac arrest in 2021 and was unable to do the rest of the interviews. So there's only one man going to be brought to justice, hopefully.
So the police have taken this forward and now there's a court case pending, am I correct?
Well, we're waiting to go before the CPS at the minute, hopefully, because they're just dragging their feet, the police.
That is the most upsetting story I've actually heard on all the podcasts I've ever done. I don't know what to say. All I can say is I hope the CPS take this forward, and I hope the CPS try to prosecute this man.
Well, the man's very old, very old. He's in his 70s, his mid-70s, and I just worry that he's very ill, the man, and I just worry that he may die before we even get to court. I just don't know how I'm going to cope with the situation if he does die, because I'm holding on to getting some justice at the end of the day. Just because my son's died doesn't mean the man can get away with it.
No, absolutely. And I really do hope you get justice for your son. And I think for people out there, you need to be aware that this type of crime doesn't only affect girls, it affects boys as well. And if you've got a son or a male relative and you think this is happening to them, then you need to speak to them. And there is some help and support out there, some survivors groups. And I would do some research on the internet and I would reach out and speak to people, because you need to get it off your chest. And you need to get some help for you, but also help for your son or your male relative. If you could give anybody some advice, what would your advice be?
My advice would have been to not let it drop, not be fobbed off by the police, to go take it further, to not be ignored, because the guilt I feel now through letting him go through that, I know it's not my fault, I know I didn't do it, but the guilt that I never shouted louder, never took it further, is unbearable at times. And for the police to turn around to you and say, yes, it's still happening in Oldham, but people are more aware of it now. Well, it is sad.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people are more aware of it now, but only in connection with girls. I think what you've said today will shock a lot of people, that it also happens to boys.
It does. I never thought it did. I told my daughter about grooming and not to, go near males who do that kind of thing. But I never thought I'd have to tell my son.
And I think 99% of the population still think that. And it does happen, and it's serious, and it ruins lives, and it ruins communities as well. Teresa, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I know it must be painful talking about this, but if this conversation can help one or two more people not go through this, then this conversation was well worth having.
Yeah, I want boys to realise they shouldn't be ashamed of this happening to them as well.
Right, Teresa, thank you very much, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon if you have some good news about a potential court case.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye-bye.
Bye.